the Honorable Minister, First Lady and Honorable Minister of Education and Sports, the Honorable Ministers of State for Education present, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Education and Sports, member of the board, senior members of staff of the Ministry of Education and Sports, senior members of staff from the Uganda National Examinations Board, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Minister, with great pleasure, Uganda National Examinations Board presents to you the results for the year 2020 Uganda Certificate of Education Examination for release to the public in accordance with the mandate of the board under Section 4, Subsection 1B of the UNEB Act Number 1 of 2021. The examination was conducted under the theme that you had in the chairperson's speech. Total candidature. Honorable Minister, as you had, we had a decrease of 4,324, that is negative 1.3% in candidature. This is from 337,720 in 2019. And so we had 333,396 candidates that registered. Of these, 44.4%, that is 148,128 were UCE beneficiaries. The number of male candidates registered stood at 166,744. That is 50. And that of the females is 166,652, which is 49.99%. As the chair said, there is parity. There is only a difference of 92 more males than the females. However, in 2019, we had seen the number of female candidates registered surpassing that of males by a figure of 398. In 2020, we had 330,592 of those candidates who registered, consisting of 165,251 males and 165,341 females appearing for the examination, and this compared to 333,060 in the previous year. Again, this reflects a decrease of 2,468 candidates. However, whereas the number of males who registered were slightly more than the females, those who eventually turned out to sit the examination, we had the females being slightly more by almost the same number of 90. Statistics of the number of candidates who have registered over the last 5 years is given in the table below. Honorable Minister, what is interesting to note is that absenteeism, in other words, candidates who register for the examination but do not come to sit for some various reasons, that is decreasing. If you look at 2016, we recorded 2.1, and that number has gradually reduced. And even this year, when we could have expected more absenteeism, I'm glad to note that this percentage has now gone beyond, below 1. It's now 0.8. Mama, we also take care of the special needs learners of our country, a total of 519 of them, consisting of 252 males and 267 females registered for the examination. And this number increased from 358 in 2019. These consisted of the various categories of special needs, that is, those who with the sight problems, the blind, those with low vision, those who are deaf, the dyslexics, and those who are physically handicapped. And there were also others with other various forms of disability that only required extra time. All these other cases, the blind, the low vision, the deaf, dyslexics, require special intervention which the board provided in terms of braille for the blind or large prints for those with the poor sight, and physical support given to those who are physically handicapped, and then sign language interpreters for the deaf, and then transcribers, those who are dyslexic and cannot write clearly. We provided them with the transcribers, those who will write their answers in the answer booklets. So adequate arrangements were made, and as a rule, all these candidates of all the various types were also, on top of the support given to them, they were also given an extra 45 minutes in each paper that they took. Honorable Minister, I now give the comparison of the general candidates' performance for 2020 and 2019 examinations in table number 2. This performance is by division. Division 1, which is the highest, number 2, Division 3, Division 4, and Division 9, which at primary we call U, that is the ungraded, those who have not been able to pass. They've not been able to get the minimum mark required to make them pass. We are comparing this, Mama, with 2019. And what is of interest, as the chairperson's speech indicated, we look at Division 1. In 2020, 12.1 of the candidates, that is 39,968 of our candidates, passed in Division 1. If you compare this to 27,842 in the year 2019, the percentage is 12.1 compared to 8.3 in the previous year. Similarly, you can also see that at second grade, Division 2, the percentage of the passes are also better in 2020 than 2019. So we can generally say that there was better performance overall compared with the 2019, with 311,233 candidates passing compared to 306,924. Mama, this gives us an extra 4,309 candidates for whom we have to find places in the post-O-level institutions. Mama, we compare the performance of candidates in 2020 in various subjects. We have taken subjects where candidature is large, and most of our candidates take these ones that have been listed here. We can also see from English language, we compare for 2020 and 2019. We are giving these results under the minimum pass at distinction, at credit, and the overall pass at 8. So if you look at the column under 8, that is the absolute number of candidates who passed at that division and above. As you run down the column, you will also observe, Mama, that results in most of the subjects have improved, except in geography, chemistry, and biology. Although biology showed a slight improvement at the distinction 2 level. Worth noting with concern, Mama, is the overall pass levels for science, where nearly half of our candidates have not achieved the minimum pass level 8. And as you can see from that column, in both years, 2020 and 2019, chemistry subject remains the worst done subject. Honorable Minister, we also compare performance of the males and the female candidates in Table 4. When you the males, we are comparing them at the distinction level, the credit level, and the grade 8 pass level. Again, you will see here that the females outperform the males in English language. However, in all the other subjects, the male performance is better, with the difference between males and females being more distinct in mathematics and the sciences. Mama, you recall that this trend in disparity between the performance of male and female candidates have been observed over the years, and we have been reporting as such. In Table 5, Mama, we are comparing the percentages between males and females in a division passes, where we are now looking at the differences in performance in Division 1, Division 2, up to Division 9. That table confirms that the male candidate's performance was better, because at Division 1, 14.3% of the candidates who were male passed, and then females had 9.9 at that division. Secondly, in Division 2, 22.9% of the males obtained the Division 2, and then 19.4% obtained Division 2. Interestingly, Division 3, the numbers are more or less the same. They are exactly the same. However, in the lower division of 4, that is where the girls have shown up. So this table just confirms what we have already looked at in the performance in the different subjects, that the male candidates performed better at the higher grades than their female counterparts did. Mama, allow me also to report on performance of those candidates we are calling special groups. The first of those is the inmates. These are the people who have been incarcerated in prison. UNEB has maintained an examination center at Luzira prisons for the inmates in order to assist the Uganda Prison Service in their efforts at rehabilitation of the offenders. This year, the center registered 45 candidates, and all of them sat. In some years, we would find a few who would have been released before sitting the examination. Now, 4 of those 45 passed in Division 1, 8 passed in Division 2, 15 obtained Division 3, and the other 18 obtained Division 4. Very interestingly and encouraging is that none of them failed. The second group is our special needs candidates. In that table, we have given the best 2 candidates in each of the groups. The first group, the amanuenses, where these are the ones that need special physical assistance because they are unable to write by themselves because of their physical disability, or they cannot hold apparatus. Somebody has to do it for them. So we have those 2 candidates, Kauka Joel and Tino Esther, who passed very highly with aggregates 10 and 12 in the best 8 subjects. The first one is from Uganda Matters Namugongo, Wakiso District, and the second one is from Trinity College Nabingo, also in Wakiso District. Among the blind, we had Nabaka Yudaya, who received aggregate 25, Division 1. This came from Iganga Secondary School in Iganga District. And Asasira Matthew, who also came from the same school, obtained 30, aggregate 30, Division 1. Among the deaf, the best 2, we had Chedi Cole Timothy, who got aggregate 35, Division 2, from Mbale School for the Deaf in Mbale District, and Nyangoma Brenda, who had 38, Division 2, from Wakiso Secondary School for the Deaf in Wakiso District. The ones that required transcribers, we had Nanyombi Benita Katrina, who got a very good aggregate of 16 for the best 8, coming from Uganda Matters SS Namugongo in Wakiso, and Nalugwa Teddy Nkasa with aggregate 20, also from the same school. And finally, the partially sighted, these that needed their prints to be enlarged for them to be able to read. We had Mbuya Prince Solomon, who got a very high aggregate of 8, Division 1 from Our Lady of Africa SS Namilyango in Mukono District, and Pili Nancy, who got 13, also a very high aggregate, Division 1 from Adwari Secondary School in Otuke District. So the details are in the text below that table. Honorable Minister, allow me to make general comments on the performance of candidates. As we have stated before, the UCE examination is designed to assist the degree of acquisition of the necessary knowledge, skills, and competences in the various learning areas, and also to lay a foundation for specialization at higher education levels. The examination papers, therefore, are carefully constructed and go through the necessary stages to ensure validity, such that they test the candidate's knowledge, understanding, and ability to apply knowledge which they have acquired to solve problems in given new situations, and also to show analytical skills. Mama, in the sciences, the papers are designed to test the ability of the candidates to manipulate science apparatus while carrying out various types of experiments, to apply the science process skills of making measurements, making observations, recording those observations and other data that they will get from the measurements, and then drawing inferences or conclusions from the observations that they have made. They should also be able to present data and interpret the data that they have presented. They should also be able to apply the basic scientific knowledge to problems, the common problems in their environment. However, Mama, the following challenges are persistent, and we have reported these before, and they are responsible for the poor performance of our candidates, whom you see in the lower grades. The small percentages in the upper grades have shown all these qualities, but the larger percentages that you see in the lower grades have some of these problems. The first one, which we have again reported before, is the language deficiency. We note that performance in English has improved. However, in composition writing, which is a critical skill, where candidates are expected to exhibit creativity and originality, the teachers in some of our schools are still making learners to cram passages from what they call model compositions, which compositions have very unusual and difficult vocabulary that the candidates who are cramming do not understand. Then the candidates reproduce these crammed passages in their examination, irrespective of what the composition topic is. Mama, you'll find a candidate who has selected question number 1, probably asking them to write a story on a visit they made somewhere, and another one probably being asked to write on an event that they will not forget. The questions are different, but you will find exactly the same type of passage has been crammed and reproduced. In the same English, candidates also find difficulty in extracting appropriate information from composition passages to correctly answer the questions that are based on this passage. We have also seen weaknesses in using the correct grammar in sentence construction. We have also seen weaknesses in the essential skill of extracting main ideas from a passage and writing out a coherent summary. This is a very important skill for anybody who expects to move ahead with their studies or anything else like that. The challenge of language deficiency, Mama, is also reflected in the other subjects, where the chief examiners have continued to report the failure by candidates to interpret the demands of the tasks that have been set for them. Also, failure to follow the instructions which are given in order to answer particular questions. Also, misunderstanding some of those very key words that define the direction that the candidate's answer is supposed to take. These keywords are normally found in the stem of the question: describe, explain, and so on and so forth. And then generally, answers tend to show very poor mastery of the language. In the sciences, the problems have also remained largely the same. The candidates are showing weaknesses in handling apparatus during the practical tests. They are also showing exhibiting problems in making and recording observations, drawing conclusions from those observations, or writing experimental results in a table and making meaning out of those results. They have also shown poor mathematical skill, where they are required now to carry out computations arising from the figures that they have recorded in their tables. In chemistry, they are showing inability to write the correct symbols of elements, formulae of compounds, and equations, among others. This is the language of chemistry. Once you cannot write the correct symbol, chlorine Cl, and you write chlorine with the C capital L, you are talking about something else. We also saw from the scripts that some candidates merely forged figures of experimental results and wrote them in the answer sheets without carrying out any practical work at all. Most of them showed lack of practical experience, as what we have had, Mama, is that many schools tend to handle practical aspects of the curriculum much later in the course. And as a result, students do not develop the necessary skills in practice, in practical work, as they should. Performance in higher order questions. These are questions that do not merely require the candidate to remember and regurgitate what they have crammed, but requires them to use whatever they know to try and solve a problem that has been given to them. And as we have also reported in previous statements, candidates tend to do better in questions which require mainly knowledge and understanding, which we call low order questions. The other order questions which require candidates to apply their knowledge in problem solving situations, or draw inferences, or make predictions from observations or a set of data, are usually not done well. And this has also been a persistent problem. Mama, I say something about examination malpractice. The board has gradually been increasing measures aimed at reduction in cases of malpractice. And I want to say that this year there is a reduction in the cases of examination malpractice compared to last year and even the previous years. The subjects that have been affected most this year have been physics, chemistry, biology, and mathematics. And the nature of the malpractice has been mainly external assistance. That is assistance given by third parties to the candidates inside the examination room as they are writing the exam. We have also had cases of collusion where candidates are sharing the answers. A brighter one passes on his or her answers to a neighbor who is probably weaker to copy. And then we also had some few cases of impersonation and script substitution, which means someone has written the examination from outside the examination room, and at the time of sealing the scripts of the rest of the candidates, the script of one candidate is removed and the one which is written outside is inserted in the envelope in place of what the other one has done. So, Mama, this year, in accordance with Section 5, subsection 2B of the UNEB Act number 1 of 2021, 1,292 results will be withheld. This compares to 1,825 in 2019. This is why we are saying there has been a reduction. And as usual, the affected candidates will be given a fair hearing and a final decision made. Now, these examination centers from which results are withheld will be notified through their portals. Mama, allow me to appreciate individuals who have stood with us through this period. Of course, Mama, you are the very top. We wish to express our very profound appreciation to you and the entire ministry. As you heard from the chairperson's speech, what you did, I will not repeat, but it enabled us to conduct this examination. We wish to thank all the other persons, particularly the security agencies, all our field people, the area supervisors, heads of examination centers, the invigilators who conducted the examination in accordance with the board's regulations, and all those that adhere to the Ministry of Health guidelines on the control of COVID-19. Mama, I also want to thank our examiners. They traveled from wherever they were, despite the fact that the second wave was moving towards its peak. They did not fear to travel. They came, and their hard work ensured that the marking ended on schedule. I'm extremely grateful to the heads of schools that allowed us to use their premises as marking venues, although it generally disrupted their school program. Finally, Mama, in a very special way, allow me to thank my staff, the staff of the UNEB Secretariat, for their utmost perseverance, selfless commitment to duty, and the personal sacrifices that they made to ensure that the 2020 UCE results are being released here today. Mama, I just want to advise, in terms of accessing the results, allow me to advise that heads of centers can download the results as soon as you release them for public use. Currently, we have no hard copies to be issued from our offices as we normally do until conditions are more favorable. And when that condition becomes more favorable, the centers will be notified accordingly. However, we will enable anyone who is interested, immediately after you release these results, Mama, anyone who is interested, the candidates, their parents, and the guardians, many on their smartphones, and they type UCE, leave a space, and then they put the correct index number and send to 6600. This service is available on MTN and Airtel networks. What normally happens is people put in the wrong index number, then they begin to call. If you put in the correct index number, the results will come to you instantly. We wish to warn schools against gathering the candidates in the school premises or anywhere else for any form of celebration of the results that they will receive, because, Mama, this may act as a vehicle to spread the infection. I'd also like to advise heads of examination centers to study their results, and within 3 weeks through the portals, give us any corrections that they may have noticed in the spellings of names, the age, or any missing information on their results. would like to have this within 3 weeks so that we are able to make the necessary adjustments and then print the result slips. Before I end, Mama, allow me to use this opportunity to assure the nation that the question papers administered by UNEB for the various subjects contain the correct questions developed according to established question development techniques that are used by assessment bodies worldwide. These questions are based on the national curriculum as revised from time to time. The work of the candidates are marked objectively with sufficient assurances, quality assurances, procedures in place to ensure that each candidate receives the results that they have worked for. There are also laid down procedures for appeals if anybody has. The results that UNEB issues is, like we are doing today, are not dependent on luck, but a deliberate, valid, and reliable process. Mama, UNEB has been in existence for 41 years now. It is a well-respected agency nationally and internationally, and a member of the International Association for Educational Assessment in Africa and the Association for Educational Assessment in International Association for Educational Assessment, and then Association for Educational Assessment in Africa. Its certificates are internationally recognized and are used for admission to universities and other institutions of higher learning, both nationally and internationally. Mama, I have had to say this because recently there has been a posting on social media riddled with very misleading, wild, and baseless accusations on UNEB, which unfortunately was lapped up by many people who take social media posting as gospel truth. We saw this from the media talk shows that followed. The author of this post makes a false claim of being an education expert, although he has no assessment credentials to talk about. He is known to us, Mama, and we shall soon issue a statement to debunk those allegations and expose him for who he truly is. Allow me also, Mama, to warn our heads of examination centers about con men who at this time call head teachers telling them that their results are being withheld and asking them to send certain specific sums, amounts of money. If they do not, their results will be cancelled. A few head teachers have also been threatened with arrest by the State House Anti-Corruption Unit if they do not pay up. Yesterday, early morning, Mama, we were able to, through our security, to arrest one of the kingpins who has been doing this, and we found out that he had contacted so many heads of schools, and I do not know, we haven't found out yet. Some of these schools must have already given him some money, but the police is doing its work. So I want to encourage and let the head teachers of all secondary schools and any other institution that takes UNEB examinations that no such thing is done. Even if you think you cheated in exams, nobody is going to ask you for money. Your results will still be withheld whether you pay or not, and you will be called to come with the candidates and defend yourselves before an impartial tribunal. So do not pay money to anybody who calls you and tells you that they are associated with the Examination Security Committee of the board. This is false. If you receive such calls, kindly get in touch with us immediately, and we have a toll-free line of number 0800-211-077. Or you can also use WhatsApp or SMS on dedicated lines 0776 865 556, then 0776 993 335 and 0776 731 261. We will receive these messages, and immediately our team of security people will swing into action so that we can rid society of this type of people. Mama, I wish to submit. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Dan Odong, the Executive Director of Uganda National Examinations Board. Mama, in keeping with the Ministry of Health guidelines, the Uganda National Examinations Board has printed and published 2 physical result booklets. One has been given to you so that they will remotely hand it over to you from here, and then you'll have yours there. And at this juncture, I would like to invite the Executive Director and a member of the board of Uganda National Examinations Board to come and remotely hand over the results to you, ma'am. So you're very welcome. And thereafter, Honorable Muyingo will request you kindly to come and invite Mama to address the nation.
Ma'am, on behalf of the chair of the board, Professor Okwakol Mary, I would like to now request that you receive and release the results of the Uganda Certificate of Education National Examinations 2020. Thank you, Mama.
May I now invite Honorable Muyingo to please come. You can come here.
Thank you very much. The First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports, my colleague, the Honorable Minister of State for Education, in charge of primary, the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Education and Sports, and all the officials from the Ministry of Education and Sports, the management and the staff of UNEP, ladies and gentlemen. Mama, my duty this afternoon is very simple: to invite you and to address us and also release the results. But before I invite you, Mama, allow me to make only 2 points. Thank you very much. One, Mama, is a thank you. First of all, to you, Mama, for hosting this year's release of exams in this beautiful environment, Mama. We feel very good whenever we are invited to meet you from here. Mama, I also want to thank you for accepting to grace this very important function in your personal capacity. Whenever we see you, Mama, we are encouraged to do more and even do better. Thank you very much for encouraging us. Thank you very much for supporting us. Mama, may I also say a big thank you to the management and the staff of UNEP for a job well done. Mama, these exams were conducted, marked in a very difficult time or period, where almost everybody was suspecting even the closest friend to be carrying COVID-19. These men and women did not fear whatever the fears there were during that time. They sacrificed themselves, and here we are this afternoon to celebrate the fruits of their sweat. Congratulations, UNEP. Mama, I note with appreciation the increasing number of the girls registering for this and completing this level of education. As seen even in the past few years, the number of girls is continuously increasing, and I'm really very happy. But Mama, I'm also worried and concerned First of all, about reduction in candidature, yet the population of the country is on the increase. I'm also very worried about the absentee, those who register but are not presenting themselves for the exam when time comes. That worries me and I'm really concerned. The other is the boy child, mama. From the disaster we have been receiving, you see, boys are having good reasons to be absent. Mama, I think we need, UNEB has given us work as the Ministry of Education officials. We need to get back into the boardroom, scratch our heads, do some research, so that these issues, even the performance are addressed, Mama. Mama, with those 2 comments, I want to invite you to address the nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please sit down. Okay, my colleagues, the Honorable Ministers of State for Education, PS, and the technical team from the Ministry of Education and Sports, the chairperson of UNEB and your technical team, the medical fraternity, the media fraternity, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon to you all. Now, each day that unfolds brings us the opportunity to recognize that our God is always in charge, in spite of the circumstances we're going through. 2 weeks ago, we came together to celebrate the release of results for 736,942 of our children who completed their PLE for the year 2020. Today, we come together in the same spirit of gratitude to our God for the 330,592 of our young people who sat their O-level exams for the academic year 2020 in March to April 2021. What is outstanding today is that the results of 2020 UCE is that overall performance is better compared with the preceding year, 2019, because 94% of our young people who sat the 2020 UCE passed, compared to the 91% in 2019. Now, to us as a nation, this kind of performance by our children should be testimony that God is still working good things in our midst, in spite of the circumstances in which we are. God is still in charge. God has not held back on his blessings upon us because of the COVID-19 pandemic. He's still in the business of blessing us. We just have to dare count those blessings one by one. We shall be amazed at what God is doing in our midst. So, on behalf of my ministry, I extend our sincere gratitude to all UNEB security agents, all UNEB and the security agencies, the local governments, the leadership of the various schools, the Ministry of Health, who worked with us very closely, and most of the parents and guardians who did not give up at all. I also extend our appreciation to our partners in development who supported action of the home study materials, which were the key resource materials for continuity of learning for most of these candidates whose results we're rejoicing over today. It is rather unfortunate now that 4,324 fewer candidates registered for UCE in 2020 compared with 2019. As of now, the technical team at UNEP and the ministry is attributing this, as you heard, both from Dr. Turiagenda and Mr. Odong, attributing this reduction largely to circumstances related to the COVID-19 pandemic. For instance, when secondary schools were assessed for readiness of compliance with the COVID-19 SOPs, only 94% of the schools met the requirements. Therefore, they were 6% of secondary schools deemed not safe for learners at that time. Now, a natural phenomenon like the COVID-19 pandemic has brought a harsh reminder of the necessity of establishing an affordable and accessible public secondary school in each sub-county. But as you know, this has been a policy commitment direction by the NRM government for many years. It is possible that some of O-level candidates whose schools could not reopen were unable to find a nearby alternative and affordable school to complete their O-level studies from. Nonetheless, I'd like to inform our listeners today that there is hope and help is on the way. The NRM government is taking great strides in bringing an affordable and accessible public secondary school to each sub-county that does not have one. By God's grace, once the lockdown measures have been eased, our ministry shall be ready to commission at least 95 brand new, fully government-owned and complete secondary schools to our communities. Each of these schools is already staffed with 31 teaching staff, including a head teacher. These new secondary schools, fondly referred to as seed schools, are non-boarding schools with a capacity for 400 students for both boys and girls. The facilities at these new government schools include 6 classrooms, fully equipped, science laboratories, a library, an ICT laboratory, a 400-seater multi-purpose hall, and 4 staff houses, among others. As the NRM government, we truly envision a future where no learner shall ever have to forego their O-level studies for the reason of not having an affordable and accessible quality public secondary school, because we are hoping that these schools will be quality schools. However, I'd like to remind my fellow Ugandans that education is a shared responsibility by the parents and guardians, state and non-state actors, because it takes the participation of the parents and guardians for the learner to gain the most out of his or her learning experience in a school setting. It does not matter if government puts these facilities in place, but the parents and guardians fail to play their role in ensuring that the child attains an education. It is the mutual responsibility for parents guardians, and the school environment to nurture and reinforce desirable behavior in our young people. UNEP informs me that 15 girls gave birth during the examination. Now that is really not acceptable, not to education institutions, but also not to the families where these children come from. My fellow parents and guardians, these young people belong to you, first and foremost, before they become a responsibility of the state to offer them affordable basic services such as education. They are yours first. And this is no place for government to advise parents, because parents know this. This is God-given. When a parent or a family brings children into the world, they must accept that responsibility. So you can see that unless we really are willing to share this responsibility for the education of our children, we will continue to find these difficulties at the end of the work done, like now. Besides, a decline in the number of candidates who registered for UCE in 2020 compared with 2019, I did note to some issues that have become perennial in the performance of our young people at O level. First, we are not seeing improvement, as you heard Mr. Odong say, in the science subjects commensurate to the investments government has made in this area. UNEP has done a good job by providing us with the data that gives us a general idea that there is a problem. I want to task our ministry's permanent secretary to ensure, to give support and attention to providing credible answers to these perennial problems, working with all our technical people concerned. We have recruited more science teachers, as you heard before me. We have enhanced their salaries to at least Uganda shillings 1.2 million per month for undergraduates. Public secondary schools have the best equipped and resourced science laboratories. Additionally, we have a program called SESMAT to build capacity of secondary school teachers in the area of pedagogy for teaching sciences. So, where and why is there a problem in sciences that does not go away? Similarly, government has increased the budget allocation for the Directorate of Education Standards. As you heard, I believe before me, the Directorate of Education Standards now has from 98.2% which is Uganda shillings 4.077 billion, from Uganda shillings 4.15 billion, it has now gone to Uganda shillings 8.277 billion. It has doubled, as a matter of fact, and more over the last 5 years. This was to strengthen the capacity, not only support local governments in inspection and supervision, but also to carry out inspection and supervision of post-primary education institutions, which include secondary schools. In spite of all these investments, learners still complain for being taught science practicals infrequently. There are still complaints that laboratories, laboratory equipment and resources are lying idle in schools, some still unpacked in those schools, in some government schools. In some areas, we hear our science teachers who roam around the village teaching or sub-counties, teaching schools, private schools, to gain more money without concentrating on the work that was given to them in these government schools. So is it any wonder that you hear that our children are not doing well in government schools? It is that unfair experience that we keep hearing about. Our teachers who earn more than private schools, but they go around teaching in private schools in addition to what they earn to benefit more, and they leave our children unattended to. Now these are problems we have to hold hands together in government, in our sector, the Ministry of Education, in local governments, to ensure that inspection is done, and teachers that are found not to be on duty when they're supposed to be on duty must lose those jobs. So that we send some examples to people that they are paid to provide a service to our people, not to just selfishly gain more and more money, leaving our children unattended to. So that is why today I am, as I said, I'm tasking our new PS to study this problem further and report to us with evidence-based solutions on the way forward. It is gratifying to note that over the last 5 years, there has been a consistent downward trend in the proportion of S4 candidates who register for UCE but fail to sit the exams. At least this one is reducing. This is considering another positive trend where we have observed an increase in candidature by more than 30,000 students over the same period of time. The proportion of absenteeism has declined also, as you heard from Mr. Odong, from 2.1% in 2016 to now 0.8% in 2020, as you heard him say. Nonetheless, as I mentioned 2 weeks ago during the release of results of 2020 PLE, we must account for students who register but do not show up for exams. Therefore, we will work very hard in the coming time to establish what is happening with these children who register and never sit the exams. For our young people that pass the Uganda Certificate of Examination, you stand at crossroads of opportunities. The UCE certificate you have earned opens paths for you into the world of several post-secondary education opportunities. I come back to parents and guardians to say that your children need you most at this point of choice making, because they are at crossroads now. And they have questions in their minds that do not have answers, and they need you. They may be asking those questions to you even now. What path should I take? They may say. There is a whole world of limitless possibilities in the technical vocational training subsector. However, it is also a path that our young people tend to despise, and our society in general. And yet, it has opportunities, and our young people tend to shun them. Parents, I encourage you to encourage your children to give serious consideration to this area of technical education. Those that have been focused and committed have earned a decent living by putting to work the skills they acquire through TVET. Therefore, I encourage our young people and their parents to seek more information about technical and vocational education training in your districts or sub-region. Let your child know that TVET does open many more employment opportunities than they may find in the academia path. Lastly, for those that successfully completed O-level, the selection exercise will be communicated to you in due course, but not before the lockdown has been lifted. This is similar to what I mentioned to the public when I released the 2020 PLE results only a fortnight ago. I did see and hear of some government-aided secondary schools carrying out online applications and admissions shortly after the PLE results were released. That before the government official selection exercise is even conducted, as has been the normal practice. As I have said before, there are some practices that are desirable and even preferable. As government, we do encourage and promote e-governance systems because we know the efficiencies they bring along in conducting business. However, as government, before we adopt such practices, we always take into consideration the wider implications, especially on equitable access to services by our people in the country. Last year, my ministry did embark on developing a curriculum, admissions and permanent policy, and placement policy, as well as a higher education policy. These two policies will, among others, pronounce clear systems, standards, and guidelines to regulate admissions and placement of students in our entire education system. Therefore, until then, the current government approaches for selection and admission into entry levels for O-level, A-level, and post-secondary education levels remain as it is for public and government-aided institutions. Furthermore, I want to use this opportunity to inform all concerned citizens listening to me that the reopening of education institutions is constantly in our discussions as government. But we try as much as possible to include in all our concerns what will ensure learning for all and also good health for all in this very difficult season of the COVID-19 pandemic. We have not forgotten that when the president announced this second lockdown, there had really been an outcry in the country that government announces a lockdown because of the many sick students in schools and also the deaths in the country. Therefore, now that the lockdown has provided some calm in the country, with a reduction in numbers of the sick in health centers, people have started calling for reopening of schools, which we all want, which is necessary indeed. However, I want you to know that we are considering the sequencing of reopening the schools that will follow, which is realistic as government finds the vaccines required for all our learners. So when you find your own segment of school is not in the very first one, the first sequence, please have the patience. And I call upon the parents, mostly, have the patience. Encourage your children to do homeschooling and wait for their time. Because the opening will come for sure for all educational institutions. but we have to look at how we should open. We can't do the opening all at a go, because it hasn't been long since we were having problems with children at school and having COVID-19 right there in schools. Therefore, what I want to ask you all, my listeners, is to trust your government and know that we are trying to do everything humanly possible to protect our people from this enemy of COVID-19. Where we fail, it is not because we have not tried or because we do not care. So please listen to what the President will say to the country tonight, because it will inform what we will do going forward. Once again, I appreciate the parents, the guardians, and teachers, among others, who made it possible despite the difficulties brought by the COVID-19 pandemic. For those who were not as successful as you expected from your UCE, I encourage you not to lose hope. As long as you're healthy, God will make a way for you through which your life goals can be pursued. Do not give up. Keep safe by observing the SOPs for COVID-19, because it is not yet safe to put down our guard. With that, it is now my pleasure to release the 2020 Uganda Certificate of Examination Results to the public. And here are the results. Okay, thank you and God bless you.
Thank you so much, Mama. I request that we give Mama one more rousing hand clap. Thank you so much, Mama. Mama, the program that will follow is a short one from here, but I would just like to quickly announce that there will be a photo opportunity that will be taken just at the side of this building here. And then we shall, from here we're going to have the anthems, and then we shall have a meeting with the press. And I would like to also clarify that the press meeting shall be conducted without the live coverage that is currently ongoing, so the people in charge of live transmission are duly informed. May we now stand up for the anthems. First to the East African anthem and then national anthem. like to beg your guidance. Would you prefer that we have the photo or? Okay. So we shall have the photo opportunity now and thereafter come for the press conference. Thank you very much.